Hello and welcome to episode number 3 of the Olares project, and specifically this ongoing series around putting together an F1 race with a single model as the car in the race and 3 different agents who will be driving that car around the racetrack as a test. So we covered some of the wiring in the last episode, specifically around code server and GitLab. And in this episode, I want to show you what's going on here with the agents. And it is not good news. And I'm just going to say what you're seeing right in front of you actually is the fact that NemoClaw simply isn't loading. And I discovered this the other day. So I was going through and I was checking to make sure Hermes and NemoOpenClaw were running. Hermes is running and it's functional, and that's a good thing. However, NemoOpenClaw, well, it's better if I just show you. And there we go. So I did a little bit of digging, and this is one of those things, by the way, folks, if you go down this route, you're going to discover fairly quickly there are a lot of things that you get to troubleshoot when you're doing these types of experiments. So I went in here and I was looking at, what was I looking at? Oh my gosh. Okay. So if you're not familiar with some of the technology that's running behind the scenes for a lot of the applications that you may or may not use online, there are a few key components in addition to the servers and the network and the storage that power these in a data center somewhere probably fairly close to where you live, if not going into an edge node and then subsequently going back to a data center. I'm not going to get into all of that architecture. That's probably left for another video, and it could go back to what I used to do when I was a data center manager working for Verizon, specifically on the business side of things. Lots and crazy stories around that. Suffices to say, there is a lot of software that rides on these servers, not the least of which virtualization software. And there are core components and all that, this software stack, that are really worth mentioning here because the open source versions are actually used on the Olares One. So I'm going to speak specifically to Kubernetes, which is an orchestration layer. So you've got an operating system below that, which is a Linux operating system. It's an Ubuntu fork, Olares OS. Then you've got Kubernetes, which is an orchestrator. So that helps manage what ultimately runs on top of that, which are Docker containers. So what we're looking at right here is the dashboard. And more importantly, we're looking at the things that are actually there and working, or in this case, not working. So one of the things that I checked out was looking at what's working versus what's not. And actually, let me go into the pods. The pods tell a better story. So, where is, okay, let's go to Claw. That's not right. CLAW. Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, sometimes these things just don't work the way I would prefer the words, Tim, they're difficult. They don't work the way that I would prefer them to work. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go to terminal. And what do I have running in my terminal? Well, it doesn't say anything is running. So, this is the downside, folks. Sometimes I can't even get a good demo to show you exactly what may or may not be happening underneath the surface of these things. So let me flip back here to my environment. So we know this is not working. Of course, hey, this is the greatest thing about having a channel that is Tim Unscripted. I get to do all of this without any concern about the editorial quality of what I'm actually trying to present. So, oh my gosh, I would love to be able to pull up what is and is not running here. You can tell I've got all the pods running. I've got all the instances going, or I should say many of the instances. what I'm not, well, let's see. What? Let's go to warnings. No, it's not going to show up on warnings. Erroring. No. All statuses. Yeah, so let's do this. CLAW. Oh, this is crazy, folks. Of course, it's not displaying the one thing that I really wanted to show you. You saw the fact just now that Nemo is not running. Now, this is the second time that this has happened. And what's more important is what I'm about to show you, which is this. So this is the actual defect that I opened up when I discovered that NemoOpenClaw wasn't working the way I'd planned it to work. Now, if I'm going to do a head-to-head between agents, it would actually help if the agent ran in the environment. So not having NemoOpenClaw available is a bit of a challenge for me. But what makes this even more challenging is the fact that Poolside's pool agent, this is going to be even trickier. Hermes is actually like the best thing ever, only in the sense that I actually have the Hermes agent running on Olares in two different instances. The one I packaged as well as the one that's in the official market. Folks, I'm telling you, this experimental series is going to bring probably me more humor and laughter than you, the viewer. And I'm saying this only because this is tech. This is software. This is hardware. This is life in tech. What I'm trying to help you understand here is the fact that even the best laid plans, even the ideas that, on the face of it, they seem to be like really great. They're solid. They're well thought out. There's a strategy behind them. There's no guarantee that they're actually going to be something that you can execute on. And yeah, my terminal's not even working. This is crazy. I can't even pull up any of the diagnostics. This is part and parcel to why I do what I do on YouTube, especially when I talk about things of this nature. I think it'll help so that you guys really understand that I'm not whinging here. I'm actually talking through a situation that I'm dealing with in real time. And these are all the apps, and I showed these to you in another. Oh, that's right. I did stop it. No, actually it times out. It times out after a certain period of time. So let me do this. Let me try and restart this. Then now I'll be able to go back to the containers and show you, what is or is not running. All statuses. And okay, here we go. So you can see I'm getting an error status here. And this particular thing, it just isn't coming up. In fact, I'll do us all a favor and show you the log. So it's going through the startup sequence, and this is the crazy thing about it. And I'm saying crazy only because it's like, cool, this should all be working. But it's not. It's waiting. Let me go back to this other container, which is, this is the NemoOpenClaw container. It's sitting waiting. This log is actually a little bit more verbose. So this is really showing kind of where a lot of the stuff is just not happening. And I actually sent these logs over as attachments to the defect record. So this is, by the way, I want to frame this correctly. A lot of this is really an open source community effort. So the people who are doing the work in packaging these applications, either if they've already got Docker containers, making them fit for purpose, fit for use to run in the Olares environment. If not, doing the hard work of getting the packaging ready and around them. And so this was a pretty detailed thing. And by the way, I'm going to give this shout out to Perplexity because, again, Perplexity is my research tool. So Perplexity really helps me a lot in getting over some of these more difficult humps. And so it wrote up this entire description for the team. And then, of course, I attached the logs. And we don't need to download those because I've already got local copies of them anyway. So I attached the exact same logs that you saw when I pulled up this in, the Docker monitoring space. I think they call it, what do they call it? This is crazy. What do they call this? It's not Studio. Oh my gosh. You go figure, right? Oh, Control Hub. And yes, it does allow me to control things. So, this is one of these things where you've got to be comfortable with kind of getting your hands into the mix. I'm not a service reliability engineer. I'm not a DevOps engineer. I am a guy who has worked in the technology space for a long time, as if you couldn't tell by the nature of the color of the hair in my beard. But it doesn't stop me from getting my hands dirty. In fact, it's a really great educational tool and environment because this has helped me in a lot of ways become more empathetic with my product development teams. And like right now, with my SREs who I'm working with for my client. And, this gives me a better understanding of the ins and outs of what they may be experiencing. So for me, this serves multiple purposes. Not only is this fun and enjoyable for me, it teaches me empathy for my colleagues who have the more difficult jobs sometimes. When we talk about product development and business side folks like myself and the build side folks who are the developers and the other types of engineers, and as well working as a novice, as an amateur, to show you that you can do this too. That's what all of this is about. I mean, this is really an altruistic effort on my part, even to the extent of laughing at myself when silly stuff comes up where it's like, cool, I didn't have to waste an entire Saturday packaging Hermes. They did it for me in the marketplace. So this episode has really been about now I've got a roadblock. Now I've got a situation that I've got to escalate out of my ability to influence a different outcome, put it right back into the hands of the development community here as a defect being reported in GitHub, and being reliant on the apps, the folks who are supporting this apps community for Olares, which is actually BEC Lab. So, this is the Olares community. And by the way, open source. This is on GitHub. You guys can go search and you can see the people who are working on this, and this is really a cool effort if you think about it. Back here in this repository, these are all the applications that they're working on or have deployed into this marketplace, and some that they've retired out of this marketplace. We collectively have an opportunity to help one another by getting in and doing difficult and challenging things. This is not beyond anyone's ability. And I'm saying in the general sense, and I acknowledge that there are definitely people who may watch this video or this entire series and go, well, yeah, there's this and that and this other thing. And you're not wrong. In fact, you're right based on the context in which you are currently living. And so that is not lost on me. What is more important to me, though, is the fact that I'm not allowing an experience barrier. I'm not allowing a knowledge barrier. I'm not allowing technical understanding to be a barrier to me. And that, for me, is the message in all of this, which is don't limit yourself to whatever the actual or perceived barriers are that you're facing to do things like this for yourself. Open source software exists. Linux as an operating system exists because there were people who said, I don't want to be captured into a commercial ecosystem that prevents me from getting work done and being productive and being a builder, being a creator myself. I support this. I'm doing this work because I firmly believe that this is a a different and better way. It's not to say that commercial software is bad. It's not to say that company-built software has no place in the world. This is huge. There's a place for all of this. And being able to lean in and show you a little bit of, this stuff behind the scenes, this is a delight to me. It really is. It shouldn't be a secret, but yet it is for many folks, and maybe it's designed to be that way. I don't know. I hope I'm crashing a barrier. I hope I'm crashing somebody's party by making this more public. And if that's the case, I'm going to say I'm sorry, but only to the extent that, maybe it's time that you become a little less uncomfortable about what you're doing in your free time and what you're doing professionally, and start joining the rest of us so that we can celebrate one another and support each other in these efforts. So this episode really focused on the, gotcha, your plans, Tim Dickey, to do this whole, F1 style car race with these agents. Yeah, it's not going to be nearly as easy and seamless as you would hoped. Especially when your second agent won't even start. And your third agent, well, they're not even ready to enter the garage yet. But that first one, Hermes appears to be ready to go race that car and test out the Laguna model and hopefully tackle that code base. So I hope you take away a lot of encouragement and inspiration and a bit of humor, thanks to me and my learning. And that you look at what you're able to do. And by the way, I want to say that the team at Olares actually has crafted this operating system. I don't know about the whole Kubernetes and Docker orchestration and things of that nature, but they've actually got the operating system out there, which will probably be like the follow-on episode to this one where I talk through what that might look like, because it's there. And you may choose to not go the route I did and buy an Olares One, but go a different route and run it on your own hardware. So here we are, the Olares Project, episode 3. Brought to you by Tim Unscripted, and that's a wrap.